What's up, everybody? We are back. Got our technical difficulties figured out. See if anybody jumps in here. I'm going to have a special guest, and I hope you enjoy. If nobody jumps in, I have a few questions to ask him and everything. So we'll go from there, and he can talk about whatever he wants. He needs no introduction. He's been one of my favorite wrestlers since the first time I seen him when I was probably, I'm going to say 11 years old. All right, Bob's here. What's up, Bob? We got one person. So before I bring him in here momentarily, I'm watching, I believe it was Georgia Championship Wrestling, if I'm not mistaken. So this is like 80, 83, 84, maybe 85. Like I said, let me turn off my notifications. Sorry. Years are not my best thing. So he comes out and he looks like the New York Dolls meet Mad Max. And instantly, I'm like, this is my guy. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in the Merchant of Menace, the one, the only, exotic Adrian Street. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey,
How are you?
How are you doing now, mate?
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. We had a little confusion earlier. So you got some of your titles there in the background. Like I was saying, when I first seen you, it was just like New York Dolls meets Mad Max, and it like blew my mind.
That's what I found always works for me.
Yeah.
Mystery and contrast.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, you're just one of my all time favorites, and I'm glad to have you on the show. You're my first real guest, other than one of my friends. We do a show every week. It revolves around my wrestling character and me acting silly, and we get drunk and we barbecue meats out in the yard, and then in the wintertime when it's cold, like today here in Cleveland, it's like snowing and raining at the same time. So it's just great. Well, I do them inside where it's a little more calm. But I had some questions for you, if you don't mind asking or answering them. And this one here is going to be one that later in life I realized. Cynthia Turner, welcome. David Bowie stole your style.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even the lightning bolt on his face. I've seen him wearing red wrestling boots. But like I say, it's funny. I've been asked many times, especially in the States, did I invent British glam rock? And my reply is like, no, I didn't sort of create it, but we sure as hell borrowed a lot from each other.
I realized that later in life. Like I said, I didn't get into David Bowie till I was, well, actually, till after I was introduced to you. And as a kid, we didn't have the internet and no way of finding out other than old wrestling magazines. And when did you start painting your face like that?
It started gradually. I knew that I was a very good wrestler in Britain, but I mean, the thing is, I didn't have the size. And back in those days, the heavyweights ruled the roost. They were like the mega stars, and anybody that was less than 200 pounds, I mean, they were just kind of fill-ins more or less. And okay, there was nothing I could do about getting any bigger. I'm only 5'7". And back in those days, I wasn't much more than 150 pounds. But in actual fact, my favorite weight was like 165. If I gained any more of that, I'd sort of back off eating a little bit, or sort of do a bit more cardio to kind of keep in that range. But like I say, you're like a third class sort of citizen in the business if you didn't weigh at least 200 pounds. So I thought to myself, they were very, very drab, and I was kind of brought up on the American style wrestling. You know, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers was like one of my idols. Don Lear Jonathan was my first idol. In actual fact, when I first started wrestling for the independents, I used to wrestle as Kid Tarzan Jonathan. And the strange thing is, I never met him until 2005, when Linda and I got married in Las Vegas in a penthouse in Riviera Hotel and Casino.
Nice.
And I met I met Don Lear Jonathan for the first time in my life the night before I proposed to Linda, and he agreed to be my best man.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I tell you what's even more awesome. The guy that married us was an ordained Catholic bishop. His name was Jason Saunderson, sorry. But before that, many years ago, this ordained Catholic bishop actually wrestled professionally as a wolfman.
Really? I did not know that.
And also that particular year, there were over 600 professional wrestlers in the building, and I was told that there's never ever been that many pro wrestlers underneath the same roof at the same time. So I mean, that was really something. You couldn't make that stuff up.
That's awesome. Yeah, you and Miss Linda were together for 35 years, 40 years before you married her?
Yeah. We first got together in 1969, and we never actually got married until 2005.
That she must be a saint to have put up with you.
Get back to the story. You asked me, what sort of actually created the thing. The thing is, I wasn't happy being a fill-in, being sort of like a preliminary wrestler. And I knew I was a good wrestler. I was a hell of a good wrestler. But I was in a land of great wrestlers. So I had to do something that was different. So I thought to myself, everybody in those days were very, very drab. That was something I was disappointed with when it came to British wrestling, is that they all looked the same going in the ring. Like sort of Christopher Robin dressing gowns, and I mean their trunks and boots would be brown or gray or black, navy blue. There was no color, and no. So I went out. I got myself a pair of powder blue, sky blue boots made. Nobody had ever seen anything in Britain that wasn't sort of black or brown in a way of boots, and a little short ones. I got the American style, sort of up to right up to my calf. Powder blue. I got myself a pair of trunks made to match them, and then I went out and designed myself a a jacket that was matching velvet, matching sky blue velvet with a silver lame lining.
Nice.
And that was it. And I went straight out, got some bleach. I was married at the time. I was married before I met Linda, and got my ex-wife, well, she was my wife then, to bleach my hair blonde. Well, when I went in the dressing room, all the other wrestlers, oh my God, you're not going in the ring looking like that, are you? Oh, oh, no way, you look ridiculous and all the rest of it. But the thing is, I was a coal miner many years ago, and they were like big piss takers and everything like that. My father was my biggest enemy. My father was like the worst person I've ever met in my life, was the same. Nothing but chronic piss takers. Didn't believe in me at all.
Well, you definitely proved him wrong on that.
Yeah. But anyway, I went out there now. I had a 27-inch waist, a 48-inch chest, 17-inch biceps.
You still look great.
Not bad for 81.
81.
But anyway, I marched out there imagining now that the people would go like the fans would go like, oh, wow, what a great looking athlete. And sort of accept me like as somebody who was trying to give them a bit more. Instead of that, I've got like, oh, Mary, oh, give us a kiss. Oh, isn't he cute? And I mean, I was used to responding to the piss-taking coal miners and everything like that. My dad had me out of school working in a coal mine when I was 15. I didn't like that too much. I ran away from home when I was 16, became a professional boxer on a fairground booth.
Yeah, I read about that. You were like fighting for $1 a match.
£1 for a fight. If it is a 3-round contest, if it is a 6-round contest, then I got £3. And I boxed anywhere between 4 and 7 times every night.
Oh man.
And I've never earned so much money in my life. But the thing is, I can't box. I can fight. I can fight better than I can wrestle. Because the trouble with boxing is it's got rules. And I don't respond well to rules and stuff like that. I've always said it doesn't matter how you win as long as you cheat.
that is a way. That is a saying to live by. I have one that.
Getting back to that thing, it was like, oh, Mary, like, and all the rest of it. And then my opponent got in on the act. He was there, like, blowing me kisses and sort of doing the limp wrist sort of effort.
Well, I was going to ask you about something I remember when I was a kid. You remember Jimmy Valiant, obviously, right? The Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant?
Yeah.
When was that when he was, I know it was a couple of matches, at least I remember as a kid, where he kept trying to put you in a dress. You remember that whole? Yeah. I remember that as a kid. He would like chase you out of the ring. You'd chase him back in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jimmy, but quite honestly, if he was hung for being a wrestler, he'd die innocent. He hasn't got a clue. But the thing is, I could have got hold of him and tore him in half in 2 minutes if I'd wanted to. But the thing is, you got to give the crowd. You got to give the crowd something.
Yeah, the show. They gotta.
So, I mean, the only way really that I could get the crowd into it is I did this with a lot of opponents. I did this with Macho Man Randy Savage as well. I mean, Randy could look after himself. I'll tell you. You know, I mean, Randy could have a fight. He was a great athlete. But as far as wrestling is concerned, I could have crippled him in 2 minutes. I'm a great wrestler, and he's not.
A lot of those guys back then, they didn't have the technical wrestling ability. They had more of the persona that they played, and like Randy's move was the flying elbow drop.
Yeah.
That's all he could do, in my opinion. Hogan was another one.
The thing is, to make it interesting, how interesting would it be if I went in the ring, grabbed hold of him, crippled him in 2 minutes?
Exactly. Nobody would buy another ticket.
You know, it wouldn't. So, I mean, the thing is, in order to make a match out of it, I always pretended to be afraid. I've done this a lot, pretend to be afraid of an opponent that I could tear in half if I wanted to. I'd even hide behind Linda. I'd even put Linda in harm's way.
I remember that.
Yeah, you know, because I was a villain. People would boo me for doing that. That's what they're supposed to do. But anyway, I'd do that. I'd run, I'd hide, and all the rest of it. And then when the time was right, I'd do whatever I wanted to do. You know, you mentioned these other people sort of copying my style and everything like that.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of them sort of mimicked a lot of them mimicked my characteristics.
Gold Dust.
That's easy. I've yet to see any of them mimic my wrestling skill.
There you go. Yeah, I was going to ask about, you obviously know who Gold Dust was, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was just like a direct ripoff.
The thing is, when I used to wrestle with his dad, Dusty Rhodes, down in Florida, very often his sons, what's the other one's name?
Dustin,
and there was another one.
Cody.
Yeah, Dustin and Cody would be in the audience watching the matches. And it tickled me really because he watched me wrestle with his father. Who did he end up mimicking?
You.
Not his dad.
Yeah, he had a lengthy career in the WWF with that. And I was going to ask you about that. I read somewheres, and later in life, I wondered why you never did end up in the WWF, which later became the WWE. But Vince offered you a job, and if it's what I read, it was just horrible.
Vince called me up and told me that he wanted me to work for him. And JJ Dillon, who was my manager when I was down in Florida, working for Eddie Graham's promotion. He was by this time working for Vince, and they called me and said that they wanted me to work for them, but they explained that they didn't want me to be a wrestler. I imagine, in actual fact, they knew of my reputation. They were probably afraid of me bursting too many bubbles of their so-called superstars, and I probably would have too, because I've got an attitude against big men who've got big men attitudes, you know.
I understand.
I mean, I'd have a guy 6'6", and he'd be like a foot taller than me and about 100 pounds heavier. He'd come up to me in the dressing room and go like, "We're wrestling each other, I believe." I say, "Yeah, that's right." and I'd be there looking up his nostrils. And he'd say, like, how can a big guy like me lose to a little guy like you? And my response to that was, don't worry about it, mate. When we get in there, I'll show you. Anyway, Vince explained that he didn't want me as a wrestler. Like I say, probably afraid of me bursting too many superstar bubbles. He said he wanted me to be a manager. And J.J. Dillon said, oh, you learn a fortune, you know what I mean? I said, yeah, okay. He said he was going to bring 2 British wrestlers over and I was going to be their manager because wrestlers in Britain didn't talk, for instance, on TV. So they wouldn't have had like the mic skill or anything like that. So they wanted me to be. I said, yeah, fine. That's okay. Good one. They said, well, you know, these 2 guys are going to be called the British Skinheads, and you are going to be their over-the-top neo-Nazi manager. I've never been a racist. I'm not a racist. If people respect me and they're polite, I'll be polite back. I'm glad there's lots of different kinds of people in the world, just the same as I'm glad there's all different kinds of flowers, different kinds of butterflies, different kinds of animals. I love it. I don't care if you're bloody Headhunter from Borneo. I don't care if you're Javaro Indian from the Amazon. I don't care if you're an Aborigine from Australia, a Maori from New Zealand, a Zulu from Africa. I don't care. You can be a pygmy. In actual fact, I'd like it if you're a pygmy and be shorter than me. But, I am not a Nazi. I wouldn't pose as a Nazi. I'm proud of my legacy in this business. And can you imagine if I had gone along with their plans, what my legacy would look like now?
Yeah, that wouldn't be very good. I read that and I couldn't believe that, and well, you said it. So I read it somewheres a few years back and I'm like, that would be dumb. It would just been dumb, in poor taste. WWE, WWF does a lot of things in poor taste, in my opinion, but that's my opinion.
Poor taste, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're having your coffee too, or tea?
That's Earl Grey.
Oh, I'm drinking a large cup of coffee, a very large cup. I drink coffee all day.
I had a cup of coffee earlier. I only drink about 2-3 cups of coffee. I used to empty a couple of pots of coffee a day at one time, but I've cut back on that. I'll have about 2 or 3 cups now, but I do like it very, very, very strong.
I make mine strong and I like it cold and black.
Oh, I like it hot and black.
Yeah, I like mine as cold as I can get it in black. Before, I got a couple more questions, but I showed this off earlier when we had technical difficulties.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one I got from you. There you go. I was telling everybody they're better off, in my opinion, as opposed to buying it through eBay, is to buy it directly from you, to message you on Facebook. And it's really cool.
You can get that. This is the first book I ever wrote.
Oh, which one's that?
That's a novel. It's called Shake, Wrestle, and Roll. You can get that on eBay. You can get that on eBay or by messaging me. Any of the stuff that we've got. This is my first record album.
Yeah, I had that years ago. I'm still looking for another copy. I introduced one of my friends who's like my co-host last week to your music, talking with you today. We were doing our show last Saturday and he played some of it and actually liked it. Matt Higgins.
I've got a new record out too.
Really?
But it's on cassette tape or CD. I don't have it on an album.
Oh, well, I'll have to get one of those on CD. I don't have a cassette tape player anymore, but I do have a CD player.
That's naughty. That's naughty, but it's nice.
I have a couple other questions for you. Who was the best wrestler to work with?
The best. Who was the best wrestler to work with?
Or you enjoyed working with the most?
Rip Rogers, I think.
Really?
Rip Rogers, especially when Brenda Britton was with him. Oh, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
I mean, I really used to look forward to every match, you know.
Oh, that's good.
But in Britain, I had some great opponents because they've got great wrestlers over here. George Kidd was the best technical wrestler that I've ever heard of anyway. He was a lightweight champion of the world. I've actually held a few victories over him, but I never beat him in a championship match, which I wanted to. Although I've held 4 world titles in 3 different weight divisions.
Nice. One of my guys in here, Jets, wants to know how many different wrestling organizations have you worked for?
Oh my God, I don't know. I've had about 15,000 professional fights.
That's a lot of fights.
When I was working for the big time promotions in this country, when I was working for those, I was wrestling on average 40 times a month.
So 40 times a month?
40 times a month.
So some days you were doing 2 matches.
Some days we do like an afternoon show and then race to the race sometimes hundreds of miles to the next show.
Wow. Well, I got another question. It's not from a viewer. It's who was the worst wrestler to work with?
Oh my God. There was a wrestler in Britain. Mind you, this was like earlier in my career. Before I really had, before I was a great wrestler, I was still sort of, I'd still learn something every match. There was a guy called Cliff Belshaw. He was from Wigan, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Wigan. They had the snake pit there.
I've heard of the snake pit. Yeah.
Yeah, they had people
it's a
there.
Wrestling school, right?
Oh, I tell you what, they were lethal. They were lethal. There wasn't anybody anywhere that could stand with those people. If you could live with any of them, then you could take on anybody in the world. And I'm serious about. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something about that in a sec. But you asked me a question about one of the worst. A guy called Cliff Belshaw. He was probably about 5'8", 5'9", something like that. Skinny as a rake. Scrawny as hell. You could count his ribs from the back row of an arena. He was a chain smoker, which is not my idea of an athlete at all. Like one cigarette after another. If he touched you, you'd be upside down, inside out. It was, oh. There was just nothing you could do with him. And if he went to throw you and you're clever enough to block him, you're on your way. You're on like airborne in the opposite direction. He was a fantastic wrestler, but I hated his guts. I was early in my like early in my career when I'm trying to make a name for myself, I actually wrestled with him one time on TV. Now, when you're on TV in Britain back in those days, it was like fantastic, really fantastic exposure. It really put you over. I was on with him, and we were supposed to do do like, I don't know, it's like about 40 minutes. The match was over 2 minutes of the first round, and I was happy. He went to do a flying head scissors on me. He jumped up and with his bony knee hit me right in the mouth and knocked all my bottom teeth right through my lip.
Oh,
I still
geez.
got a scar there now. My teeth were the other side of my bottom lip. Blood everywhere, and they wouldn't allow them to show blood on TV in those days in Britain. So they went, boom, 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 we go to something else, boom, 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 get him out of the ring. The match was stopped, and they didn't show the match at all. And I was happy. I was happy to have like my teeth through my lip, rather than sort of suffer the indignation of being made to look ridiculous by this fantastic wrestler. He'd have no expression on his face, no nothing. It's just boom, 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 boom. He was horrible to work with.
Sorry. I got another question. Who was the best wrestler you taught at your school? I think your school was in Florida, wasn't it?
Yeah. In Gulf Breeze in Florida. That was near Pensacola. I had wrestlers come from all over the world: Australia, Denmark, Germany, Britain, Canada. I had a couple of Africans. But some of the best wrestlers I had there have got to be really like big names in the business. I mean, I've been European champion a number of times. In actual fact, I've still got one of the belts back behind me is the European light heavyweight title. But there was a wrestler called Bernard Van Dam. Absolutely full of confidence and all the rest of it. And he's actually got to be a newer version of the European light heavyweight title. Yeah. So
I got another question from Alan. He wants to know the worst injury you sustained in your career and how long were you out of wrestling for?
I've had a number of what was called career-ending injuries. The first worst one I've had like broken nose and cauliflower ears, and I had 15 stitches to put this one back together again. There's a stick on my face, but I mean that's not going to sort of stop me from wrestling. I was wrestling with George Kidd in Scotland, and I tried on a board, and the board sort of gave way and everything like that. It tore my Achilles tendon right in half. I mean, my foot was just flopping about like this. I had no control over my foot at all. I ended up in I think it was like Guy's Hospital where I had my surgery in London. Anyway, after I had the surgery, they actually sewed the tendon back together with catgut. And after the surgery, I'm laying in bed, and I think I was watching old Flash Gordon, old black and white Flash Gordon.
Oh, the old Buster Crab one?
Yeah, the old Buster Crab
Yeah.
On television, laying in bed in hospital. I had plaster from my foot right up to the top of my thigh. And my leg was like in a sort of like slightly bent position. Oh my God, my knees ached like hell, and nothing I could do about it. It used to itch like hell. I just got to bang my head on the flipping board, like my leg itching. There's nothing I could do about it. Anyway, the surgeon who actually performed the surgery came around, and I'm watching Buster Crab on the television, and asked me how I was. I said, okay, I suppose. He said, what are you going to do now? I said, lay here and be miserable, I guess. He said, no. He said, let me rephrase that. You used to be a professional wrestler. What are you going to do now? Because you'll never wrestle again. I tell you what, I can't even describe the way I felt. And I was off for about 7 months with that. But by that time, I'd already taught Linda to wrestle. And I was watching him wrestle and everything like that one night. And I was like, I can't do this. You know, I've got to try. So I tied my leg up as much as I could. In actual fact, I tell you what I did to sort of break myself in. I built a boot. I built an extra piece on a boot right up to my thigh. And I did it so I couldn't really bend my leg. I had to drag it. And I dressed myself up. I had a rubber mask that moved with my face. And I had a long black wig. I had a hood and a long black wig hanging down over my face. So that you'd look and go like, is that his face or not? Like you wouldn't really know, you know what I mean? Like a mosquito in there. I built a padded suit that I put on there, like with straps and everything like that. With shoulders like twice as broad as I am, a big hump on the back, and I wrestled as Quasimodo.
Quasimodo.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I used to sort of drag myself into the ring and everything like that. And I thought to myself, that's a reason for not really being able to use my leg and everything, you know?
Yeah. How long did you?
But I hated. The thing is, it's the same thing I said when I was in the coal mine. It's dark down here, and I was made to be seen.
Exactly.
You couldn't see me at the bottom of a coal mine, and you couldn't see me like while I was wearing this. So eventually, I had to come off, and I thought, here we go. Then I was wrestling in Alabama, some show in Alabama, and my opponent jumped off the corner post in order to sort of cover me, like for a fall, like for a pinfall. He missed my chest altogether and hit me in the it was like 140 pounds of him hit me right in the thigh.
Oh.
And my kneecap ended up halfway up my thigh.
How long do you have to have surgery to put it back, or?
Yeah, they had to pull my kneecap back in place and everything like that, and that all kinds of rehab and everything like that, months of rehab, and I was told, don't even think about wrestling. And the best part of it is, I was in my 50s then. And they were saying, like, don't you think it's time you give up anyway? It's not, I can't be dictated to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If somebody tells me, if somebody tells me something and say you can't do this, and it's something I want to do, I can't help myself. It's not my nature to. I mean, for instance, this is another thing that would have been no career ending. This was supposed to be life ending. I ended up in Britain spitting blood all over the place, coughing up blood, coughing up blood. And I'd go to the hospital, they'd look and go like, oh yeah, it's like in the back of your throat. They'd burn it, cauterize it and everything like that. You know, you'll be all right now. Very often I'd be coughing up blood again before I even go back to my car to drive home. I'd go back in and they'd cauterize it again. That was it. They sent me to a specialist. Instead of like really examining me properly, what did he do? He cauterized it. So I used to go to the hospital every morning with a bucket on my lap. And by the time I actually got there, the bottom of the bucket would be swelling with blood.
Wow.
And this went on for I don't know, a few weeks. So I get up in the morning, cough, cough, here comes the blood again. Linda run to get the bucket. I'll take you to the hospital. I said, forget the bucket. I said, give me a big roll of paper. Like, what do you call it? Sort of,
Paper towels. Or gauze.
No, like kitchen paper.
Paper towels. We call them paper towels here.
Yeah, paper towels.
Yeah.
Give me a big bundle of paper towels, and I bled in it all the way there. Then when I went into the hospital, instead of him sending like all cauterize it and everything like that, send me home, I went in there with this thing soaked in blood all down my vest, got their attention, took me into a place and everything like that. Doctor came and examined me. And then when I got the results, I had to go and see him. This is what he said. Mr. Street, I've got some very bad news for you. You've got a very malignant type of throat cancer. I'm going to give it to you straight. You're not going to make it out of this. I suggest you go home and put your affairs in order. So I said to him, I'm not dying yet, mate. There's still too many people in the world I haven't pissed off yet. And I think that is the attitude that got me through. But what actually gave me throat cancer in the first place was people like Cliff Belshaw, chain smoking when you're traveling with them.
Oh, you never smoked?
No.
No?
No. Dirty, filthy, stinking habit. I've got no respect for anybody that does it either.
And how long did you have to go through chemo and everything else?
That's what's made me a bit deaf. Is the chemo and radiation. The nurses told me they said we threw the kitchen sink at you. They had bets that I wouldn't be able to make it all the way through the treatment of chemo and radiation without taking breaks. I never took a break at all. I was there all the time. Couldn't taste any food. Or if I could taste it, it tasted absolutely horrible. I mean, my favorite meal tasted like dog shit.
Oh, that's not good.
And was just as about appealing. I lost about 70 pounds in weight. They told me to put as much weight on as I could, like before I start taking the treatment, because they said you won't want to eat. They were bloody right about that. I couldn't stand the smell of food.
Huh.
they give Linda a bed by mine, and they'd feed her and they'd feed me. I'd give my food to Linda. I said, I can't eat it. I couldn't eat it. It made me, absolutely made me feel sick. But anyway, I said, I'm going to get out of here. I told him I'm going home. They said, you have to come in every day for your radiation and chemo. I said, that's okay. I'll come back every day. I couldn't stay there because you could smell food cooking in various parts. And you never believe how bad it makes you feel.
Oh.
Anyway, my last treatment of radiation, when I came out of the thing and went back into the waiting room, I looked up at there was a television everybody was looking at, and I looked at it and saw like a replay of a plane flying into a skyscraper. And I've looked and I said, what is this? Like Bruce Willis or Arnold Schwarzenegger or something? Like, which movie is this? They said, it isn't a movie. It's real. It's real. I wouldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that was a day that we should never actually forget. Actually, it was a horrible day for not just for America, but for the world in general. There's other questions here. Bob wants to know: did you get any long-term effects from wearing the makeup continuously, or you only wore it when you were wrestling? Correct.
No, but all my opponents did.
Okay. Gianni, I know the one's a European title. Gianni wants to know what are the two belts behind you? I know the one's your European title. What's the other one?
The first world title I won was the middleweight championship of the world. And I won that in Lusaka in Zambia, in Africa.
Nice.
And a while later, I went back there again and wrestled for the light heavyweight. So I actually had the light heavyweight title and the middleweight title at the same time of the world.
Nice. I remember when you were the.
I didn't bring those belts over to the States with me because they didn't recognize middleweights.
I remember when you were the Southeast champion here in the States.
Oh,
that was 85.
The first time I came into the States, I came in from Mexico. And I worked for Mike LaBelle's organization, his promotion. I won the America's heavyweight title of Sweet Brown Sugar. Defended a number of times and never lost it. Then there was two British wrestlers who were the America's tag team champions. That was gentleman Chris Adams and Ringo Rigby. They were the official America's tag team. I challenged them, and they wanted to know who my tag team partner was, and I said I don't need a tag team partner. I'll do it on my own. So I wrestled with them, took the title off them on my own, didn't have a tag team partner. So not only was I the America's heavyweight champion, I was also the America's tag team champions on my own.
Awesome. I got one other one if you want to talk about it. Well, number one, Jets, one of our fans, he loves your Something Strange About a Cowboy song.
Yeah.
He loves it. The Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Did you know when you roughed him up, I guess is the polite way of putting it, had you heard any of the rumors about what everybody heard about later in life, that he was a predator?
Not really. He used to boast about all the young girls that used to go to his apartment. They'd be there in the corridor outside his luxury apartment. And he reckons it'd be like the passage would be full of young girls that was interested in getting next to him. And he'd say to him, like, I'll take you, and you. The rest of you come back tomorrow, like maybe you'll get lucky. So he used to boast about young girls, but we just didn't realize how young.
Exactly.
You know, we imagine they'd be sort of like in their late teens or something like that. We didn't realize they were children. Yeah. And I believe he molested young boys as well.
I was reading about that a few weeks back. Yeah. It was I spent a lot of time, my extra time, reading and things I've missed over the years, and I had read they were in a hospital ward, especially. He would go in there and take advantage of them. Did you hear about that? He would go visit the children's ward, even though he supposedly hated children, and he would molest them there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being on here. You've been my first real guest and one of my all-time heroes. I want everybody to go see Mr. Street. I mean, where else are you going to get an exotic Adrian Street action figure, personally autographed? And he has books. What else do you have available? The CD, I'm going to order one of those as soon as I'm done here with you. But anything you want to plug before we let you go, sir?
No, not really.
No?
Anything you want. Anything you want. Books, records, CDs. Oh, one thing I'm going to mention too is that Seller Toys is bringing out a set, a new version of the exotic Adrian Street figure, accompanied by Miss Linda.
Oh, I'll be ordering one of those. When is that coming out?
Sometime this summer, I believe.
Oh, I cannot wait. Yeah. I do thank you, sir, and I really appreciate your time. And I really want to thank you. I want you to stay safe and keep being stubborn, no matter what they tell you. That seems to be your life story. They said you couldn't be a wrestler. They said you wouldn't come back from your tendon. They said you wouldn't beat cancer. Well, you're just spiteful and like to prove everybody wrong is what I think. And I appreciate that.
Okay, it's really nice talking to you, American.
Very nice talking to you. I'll send you a message here in a little bit. I want to thank you for putting up with our shenanigans. And I hope everything goes well. And I'll message you here in a little bit. All right, sir?
Okie dokie, mate. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Stay safe.
You too. Thank you. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We had technical difficulties earlier. We got it figured out. And it's the first semi-serious show I've done. Thank you guys for supporting me. Definitely, I'm telling you, if you need something, rather than buy it off eBay, you message the man directly on Facebook. It's Adrian Street. He's a friend of mine, so you can find him that way in case you think it's a fake one or whatever. Order some stuff from him. support. If you're into wrestling, support it. That's all I ask. Thank you guys. And we're going to go to AIW here in a little bit. I'll have some pictures and whatnot. And then we'll be back at our usual time next Saturday at 8:35. And you can go fuck yourself.